Yeah, why do relationships break down? And again, this is based, I was reminded of this particular question in the movie because the movie is, as many movies are, about relationships, and they're often based on this idea of romantic relationships where they somehow fall in love, and they're so unrealistic. Because, for example, this guy, the main character that Jim Carrey plays, he's a total nobody, and for some reason, somebody falls in love with him on a train. Why would anybody fall in love with a nobody? It just doesn't happen, right? Until the other person's also a complete nobody and incredibly uninteresting. It's just how things work. It's just natural. It's unrealistic to believe anything otherwise. Anyway, but let's explain it. So, why do relationships break down so often, especially in the materialistic West? Materialistic societies confuse love with lust. So, lust is looking at the outside of a person and ignores the emptiness that people are suffering from inside. Now, if you're empty, i.e., and this is naturally will happen, you will feel empty if you focus on the outside too much. You only have so much energy, and you have to, uh, so you've got 100% energy. If you spend tons of energy on the outside, you've only got a tiny bit of energy to spend on the inside. So it is, you know, you either spend it on your outward appearance or your inward appearance. You can do a bit of mix match, but that means you have to spend less effort on your outwards appearance. So people who are loved for their outward appearance are going to necessarily be empty in the inside because they have less time for it because they spend all their time on their outward appearance, right? Okay, and those kind of people who are empty in the inside aren't nice people. They cannot be nice people because they haven't worked on the inside. The work to be a good person takes effort, right? So empty people aren't nice people to live with, as emptiness comes from selfishness. So, what is the opposite of? So, how do you feel good about yourself? What is emptiness? Emptiness is just a descriptive feeling word. But where does it come from? It's actually the opposite, I would say, of having meaning in your life when you feel good and that you're doing something important. And how do you find meaning in your life? It's not a complicated thing, actually. Viktor Frankl, I keep quoting, Man's Search for Meaning, he says in that book, all you have to do is listen to your conscience. And many people who talk about this, if you want to do amazing and interesting things, I remember Steven Spielberg, one of the greatest directors of so many amazing movies like E.T. and Jaws, and I don't know what else, loads of modern movies as well, right? Okay, Schindler's List, I don't know. So he also talks about listening to your conscience. This is not just people should stop thinking of it as some sort of airy fairy stuff. This is stuff that the conscience is something that psychologists have valued for a very long time. So Viktor Frankl says, to get back to that, just listen to your conscience and you'll start knowing what it is that you should do to have meaning in your life. And meaning is incredibly, incredibly powerful. So Nietzsche talked about, has a phrase, if you have a why, you can get through any how. Basically, it means if you have a why in your life, why you're doing something, you're capable of doing anything. And so there's another fantastic um, TED talk. These are, talks by experts in different fields of, science and technology and whatever. It is a guy who talks about start with why. So the most successful people start with why they're doing something, okay, and they become more successful than they should be. So there's the Wright brothers in this particular fantastic TED talk, start with why. Um, uh, the Wright brothers they were the ones who basically made the first powered aeroplane. or something. Um, and they just had a bicycle shop. They had next to no money, and they were competing with other people who had millions of pounds and had all the best engineers and everything, and they beat them because they believed in why they were doing it, and the other competitors were just after fame and looking important. Yeah. And yeah, and they won. And there's so many examples of that. You don't have to go to the Wright brothers. You could go to, I don't know, think of anybody who's done anything amazing, really. Let's think about Elon Musk again, easy example. You can see he really believes in what he's doing because he basically gave up every penny that he earned, the millions that he earned, um, to achieve this stuff. So basically, he's not really getting any sort of monetary success. Even now, he's sold all his houses. He sleeps in other people's houses, uh, um, and he sleeps on inside. What's it called? The the his factories and things, right? So um, yeah. So if you should work on the inside, find meaning, listen to your conscience. That's how you don't feel empty. And so coming back, rewinding to the question, why do relationships break down? Because people do not look for people who are good people. If you're, in short, looking for good people rather than falling for the common materialistic urge of just looking for good looking people on the outside, then you're far more likely to find happiness, right? And what you'll find with anybody really, I say good looking people, a lot of the people are good looking. They're good looking because, first of all, they're good looking on a newspaper or, sorry, a magazine where they've been airbrushed, and that's not really how they look. So I've seen a lot of really famous people and they look pretty terrible without makeup, you know. So they're not really that good looking. Um, and then, you know, if you think that somebody is, you know, a nice person and you spend time with them, you'll find that your mind adapts to making them good looking. And this is a very, very common. So even if you think about what an office romance is, what does that really mean? If you think about it, you've fallen in love with somebody who happened to be in your office. It's not an accident. What's happened is that you've let your mind wander and think about them over a long period of time until you convince yourself that they're good looking. So the mind does work like that as long as you focus on that particular person. So you can do that with your lifelong partner rather than looking at different people, which again is the weakness of um, materialism or material tendencies. Like, if you are materially minded, what you do is you treat people like material objects and you say, oh, I've got this person, I've achieved a relationship with them. Okay. But as soon as you get that, just like with an iPhone, you start looking at everything else. You don't control your gaze, as it were, and you let yourself think about lots of other people. And then very quite naturally, you stop liking the person you have, as it were, good relationship with, and you start, wondering at other people, and then you start feeling quite bitter about the relationship you're already in, and which is pretty much all the time. So that's another reason why relationships break down. Um, and of course, people who are feeling empty, and another reason why those relationships with empty people break down. Empty people are always searching for something. Yeah, they're never happy with what they have, and so they're going to search for not you. Basically, they are empty and they don't have you know, the morals that say, you know what, this is a nice person, and that the person I'm with, I should value. But actually, they probably aren't nice people, because if you found an empty person, that means you're probably empty, because like attracts like. So short answer is be nice to people, be a good person, and then you attract good people, and then you'll have a decent relationship, because it's easier to have a relationship with a nice person than a horrible person.